CountryWide Connect with Andy Thompson and Sarah Perriam-Lampp.
We've got Rainer Kravets. He is the Co-Executive Director of Animal Policy Information. Got him on the line there. So, interesting one, this one. Fair for Farmers, Rainer Kravets, as I said, Co-Executive Director for Animal Policy Information International. It presents itself as a campaign for Kiwi farmers calling for imported animal products to meet the same standard as New Zealand products. Critics say Fair for Farmers is backed by international activist organisation with a much broader anti-livestock agenda. Is it genuine farmer advocacy or a wolf in sheep's clothing? Rainer Kravets from Animal Policy International joins us now. Rainer, very much appreciate you joining us on CountryWide Connect, mate. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no worries. Nice to meet you, Andy.
Let's start. Is Fair for Farmers genuinely about helping New Zealand farmers, or is it a smarter vehicle for an international activist agenda?
Yeah, Animal Policy International, we have been around for 3 years working specifically on animal welfare and trade. So we have always been focused on this one issue, that imported animal products currently don't have to meet New Zealand's domestic animal welfare standards. And that's, something that the wider public kind of says that, it shouldn't be like this. Polling shows that over 80% of people want to see action on this. So around 2 years ago, we published our first report, which was basically making the case for applying same standards to imports. And then Walt, kind of the recent spokesperson of the campaign, covered this issue on his TikTok channel. So then we naturally got in touch with him and kind of started working on this issue. And he was kind of a very great spokesperson on his platform. So, and kind of we understood that farmers have a very specific kind of angle on this issue. Very much it's about fairness to farmers. So we have been working closely with multiple farmers and industry organizations across the past few years. And so this year we decided to put a more branding to this farmer-focused campaign called Fair for Farmers, to give this platform for farmers to talk about kind of this double standard and why it should be solved in this election year. It should be more on the radar of issues to solve.
Look, I on the face of it, I think a lot of farmers and a lot of members of the public have sympathy with the discussion around the imports of products coming into New Zealand from inferior animal welfare situations. I guess the question is, though, the background for the Animal Policy International. Should farmers actually trust a campaign that's linked to overseas organisations and as been come out recently, pretty much activist and anti-farming organisations? Is that fair? Should we trust that?
Well, New Zealand Pork has been advocating on this issue before us when we got involved with this, and about the kind of animal welfare angle of it. There's no hiding that we're an animal welfare organization. It's kind of, I think, clear from the name, and we have been very transparent about where the funding is coming from and who is on the team. So kind of the recent, I think, digging about the backgrounds of the organization has been primarily looking at the About section on our website. So this is generally issue that farmers care about, that general public cares about, and something that needs to be solving. So I think it's kind of a distraction to try to frame the organization as working on something that it isn't. One of the things have been asked, are we trying to end farming in New Zealand, which is
well, are you? I mean, that's a fair question. I mean, these organisations are fairly strong. I mean, they've been very much linked to alternative proteins. They've been very much linked to hardcore animal welfare activist organisations from overseas. And I know that's very different to what I think the majority of New Zealand farmers or supporters will think they're supporting with Fair for Farmers, surely.
Well, as you would know, New Zealand farmers have some of the highest animal welfare standards in the world. So as a person who cares about animal welfare, I don't think it makes sense to get rid of the industry here to just offshore it elsewhere. If anything, there should be more production in New Zealand and export more, because that's how we have more higher welfare production, happening in the world. And that's something that New Zealand Pork has been advocating for. That's something we advocate for. And when you look at
I just want to ask you about New Zealand Pork, because I've spoken to Brent Kleiss, and Brent Kleiss very much said to me that the goals of what Fair for Farming were bringing up sort of aligned with what they wanted, but they certainly don't support an organisation that is anti-farming. And I think that's the way that Fair for Farmers now and your backers are being portrayed. And I think that he was quite clear about that when I spoke to him.
Yeah, absolutely. And, the policy that we ask for is requiring imports to meet domestic standards. We have done analysis, what it would mean to New Zealand industry, pork industry, and it shows, approximately 17 to 29 million additional revenue per year if that was successful. So, I think the policy actually has quite an opposite direction to what is trying to be portrayed around here. So it's kind of a distraction from the main issue, what are we actually doing about this double standard that's affecting New Zealand farmers, affecting consumers that wanted to see sow stalls not being used in New Zealand or for the products that are bought.
We've covered that. In that case then, why did your spokesperson, Walt Cavendish, publicly resign then?
Well, I think he was on the show yesterday to talk about this. I mean, he has been a fantastic advocate on this issue, and it still continues to be a very fantastic advocate. But I think it's questions I think you got to ask him yesterday on the show.
Were you surprised that he resigned then?
Yeah, I was surprised. Yeah.
Okay. I guess the other question then is, do any of your funders support reducing or ending animal welfare, animal agriculture globally?
Well, that's, I guess, a question to the funders. I can't speak for them. How the funding works is that we as a, charity NGO, as many other NGOs around the world, write grant applications specifically.
But if you're representing New Zealand farmers, surely, and you're a charity, surely you need to know the attitudes of the funders who are funding your organisation. Shouldn't you ask them that question?
Well, we are asking them funds specifically for the policies that we advocate for that also benefit New Zealand farmers. So if they agree to that's something that they agree to sponsor, then we are happy with that.
Okay. Well, talking about supporting New Zealand farmers, then, if then this carries through, and this is the big question from Federated Farmers, and they've been very clear on this. They said this risks becoming a non-tariff trade barrier and affecting our ability to export the majority of our products overseas. Is this something that you're aware of or you've looked at? How do you respond to that claim?
Yeah, we have done lots of research on this. In fact, people can have a look at this Vision into Action report on our website. So we extensively looked at what this would mean in terms of supply chains. First of all, legally, how it interacts with WTO laws and how it can be done. And then secondly, looking into supply chains, seeing that New Zealand's imports represent only a fraction of exports from other countries, meaning minimum impact on their production. And in fact, they already produce much more sow-stall-free pork than they export to New Zealand. So it's a matter of increasing the sow-stall-free production just by a bit in order to satisfy the kind of market demands. And when we look at comparable policies in other countries, then no retaliation has been happening after those were put in place. So we would really value more of a conversation about the policy itself, see where Federated Farmers stand on it and what's their evidence and concerns about the retaliation side of things. Of course, it has to be taken seriously, but we have also been working on.
Have you had direct conversations with Federated Farmers or the New Zealand Trade Export about this and look at what the impact would be if we started to do this?
Yeah, a couple of meetings with Federated Farmers kind of presented the evidence that we have had, so very kind of nice discussions. But then unfortunately, their communication team, I think, has decided a bit different approach on the media side of things. So yeah, we would very much want to see what's what they propose to act on this issue, because we have done our analysis. We propose a course of action to solve this issue that I think most people agree that has to be solved. So instead, we should look together what should we do about this?
Okay, to be fair, and I've asked you questions and you've answered them. In plain English, what are you actually asking for?
So we are asking for legislation that would require imported animal products to meet specific New Zealand's animal welfare standards.
So not just pork, anything.
Yeah. So how this works, we have a members' bill drafted on this. So at first we create enabling power in the legislation, and then within the regulations we can specifically focus on specific species and standards. So we have proposed to do it specifically on pigs, so sow stalls, the use of sow stalls in pig farming, and battery cages in egg farming. So very specific standards in those two farming areas.
So slightly off topic here then, but an organisation like yourself, are you satisfied with the current animal welfare standards for pork farming in New Zealand, the new rules that are being implemented, or do you want changes to those?
Yeah, so we have taken a stance as an organisation that we specifically work on whatever is in legislation now and apply those standards to import. So we are not advocating for any increases or changes in standards, but we are simply focused on the leveling the playing field to whatever is already in there, because we want to kind of use the public morals exemption in the World Trade Organization rules, and that's can be used only on things that are already kind of in legislation that the public wants to see, and kind of trying to apply these to imported products.
So we're talking about pork in particular, but it's my understanding, a surprise to a lot of people, that there's a lot of eggs imported into New Zealand, not fresh eggs obviously, but powdered eggs, right? Which is effectively just a processed egg. Are there other products other than eggs potentially, or what else is there that doesn't meet these standards?
Yeah, for eggs, it's primarily liquid eggs, and there's some wool coming from Australia and sheep meat, and where a practice called mulesing or live lamb cutting is being used. These are about the three main areas that we look at, but primarily pigs and then kind of liquid eggs.
All right. Rainer, really appreciate your time. We are out of time. Thank you for coming on the show today and discussing this. I know it's certainly generating a lot of discussion, a lot of attention. I think you were at CD Field Days or Waimumi Field Days, one of them. I did come in and grab one of your... we didn't actually talk because you were busy, but I'm pretty certain I come in and said hello very briefly when you're at one of your stalls. So, look, interesting discussion, and I know there's a lot of discussions about it. We'll follow it closely and potentially talk again, mate.
Sounds good. Thank you.
CountryWide Connect with Andy Thompson and Sarah Perriam-Lampp.